Good morning, everyone. Let's start our class by reciting Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. So far we have covered chapter 1, the chapter of consciousness. Last week we have made a revision on chapter 1. Today we are going to start chapter 2, mental factors or Cetasika. In this chapter, we have to first, we should pay attention for the common characteristics of the mental fact. We have already discussed in the introduction lesson what are the four characteristics of the mental factors. Let's remind again. Arise together with the Chitta at the same moment and perish or disappear with the Chitta at the same moment and have the same object like Chitta, then based on the same base. When Chitta arises, those factors arise together with the Chitta. When mind passes away, disappear, mental factors disappear with the Chitta at the same time. When mind takes an object, the mental factors take the same object. For example, eye consciousness take the visible object. The associated Cetasikas, we will count how many Cetasikas arise in the Chittas in this lesson. Those Cetasikas, those mental factors, take the same object like eye consciousness, that is visible object. Then based on the same base. I think you can remember we have discussed there are 6 bases: eye base, ear base, nose base, tongue base, body base, and heart base. Let's take the example of the eye consciousness. When eye consciousness arises based on eye base, associated Cetasikas also arise based on eye base. Those are the 4 common characteristics of the mental factors or Cetasikas. This is a Pali stanza mentioned in the Abhidhamma Piṭaka. Ekuppada nirodhacha ekalambana vattuka ceto yuttādipanyāsa dhamma cetasikamata. Ekuppada means, as we discussed, arise together. Eka nirodha, nirodha means disappear or perishes together. Ekang alambana. Ekang alambana means, alambana is object, ekang alambana. Take the same object as Chitta. Eka vattuka, based on the same base. Ceto yutta dipanyasa dhamma cetasikamata. Means associated with the Chitta, those the ultimate realities are called Cetasika. This is the simple meaning of this stanza. Those who know Pali, it will be better to memorize those stanzas, then you can proceed your studies one more easily with the memorization, because we can't proceed this class, the Abhidhamma class, without memorization. I don't want to memorize the Pali, but at least we have to memorize the mental, the realities. How many Chittas, how many Cetasikas, how they associate. In this lesson, we are going to learn 3 groups of mental factors. What are them? There are 3 groups. We call ethically variable, unwholesome, and wholesome. Ethically variable, there are how many? There are 13 Cetasikas. Universal, there are 7 Cetasikas. So, ethically variable can be divided into 2 classes, universal and occasional. Universal, 7 mental factors, occasional, 6 mental factors. In unwholesome, there are 14 mental factors. In wholesome, 25 mental factors. Let's repeat again. Ethically variable is named as Aññasamānā in Pali. So it is twofold, Sabbacitta Sadharana and Pakinnaka. Sabbacitta Sadharana means universal mental factors, there are 7. Pakinnaka, occasional mental factors, there are 6. Also unwholesome mental factors, akusala, there are 14. Wholesome mental factors, there are 25, kusala cetasika. This is the main classification of the mental factors, 3 groups. Then let's move into the universal mental factors, Sabbacitta Sadharana. So you have to memorize those mental factors. For me, there are 7: contact, feeling, perception, volition, one-pointedness. For life faculty, we call mental life faculty because there are 2 life faculties, material and mental. Next one, attention. Let's repeat again. Phassa, contact. Vedana, feeling. Sanya, perception. Cetana, volition. Ekaggata, one-pointedness. GBT India, mental life faculty. Manasikara, attention. I think usually the Asians are not far from those Pali terms. Therefore, so Sri Lankans and Indians can memorize those Pali terms as well. If it's difficult, please try to memorize at least the English terms. Phassa, Vedana, Sanya, Cetana, Ekaggata, Jivitindriya, Manasikara. Contact, feeling, perception, volition, one-pointedness, life faculty, and attention. Those are Sabbacitta Sadharana, universal mental factors. Phassa is contact. When we consider it as contact, do not think it's like a physical contact. It's difficult to understand. Actually, it's in English we call impingement of the object. So scholars also mention that it's like to understand, if you in the dark room, we are finding something. For example, it's very common in nowadays in our countries. So we have power cut. When there is a power cut, we are looking for our torch. Then we are looking, when we touch the torch, we can understand, oh, this is torch. Because of that, the contact, you can identify that object. Similarly, mind, the function of the mind is cognizing the object. To cognize, there should be a contact with the object. That contact is done by this special Cetasika. That's we call Phassa. Phassa means that actually the simple meaning is touching. We call contact. So because of this contact with the object, touching with the object, mind is able to take the object. So when we discuss about one Cetasika, one mental factor, we can discuss one mental factor within one class. Now, please give me one more minute. So in suttas, it explains as 6 types of contact: eye contact, ear contact, nose, tongue, body, and mind contact. So this is just for basic learning. Therefore, just we pay attention for the basic teachings. Just understand the phassa as the contact with the object. I think you can remember we have discussed about feeling in the chapter 1, Vedana. There are 3 types of Vedana in basic level: pleasant feeling, neutral feeling, and unpleasant feeling. Let's pay attention for the previous lessons. So when the mind take an object, mind cognize the object, it cannot experience the taste of the object in full extent. We have discussed that each and every object has a taste, either pleasurable or desirable or undesirable, neither desirable nor undesirable. Vedana is the mental factor that experiences the taste of the object. In commentary, it's compared to the king enjoy his food offered by the cook. Suppose cook prepare various types of foods, delicious foods to the king. Before preparing, cooking, or while cooking, he tests the taste, even though cook cannot eat as he wishes. After offering to the king can eat whatever food as he wishes. he can taste those foods as he wish. Similarly, Vedana is the mental factor that experiences the flavor or taste of the object. Do not think like this a flavor of the foods only. Think about the visible object. There are some visible objects, beautiful objects, has the desirable taste. The ugly objects have undesirable flavor. Some objects have neutral sense. Mind is not the ultimate reality that experiences the flavor completely. Vedana is the mental factor that experiences the flavor or the taste of the object. You can listen to the previous lessons. We have already explained about feeling in detail when we were discussing Lobha Mula Chitta. Next one is Sanya, perception. Now we have discussed several aspects of the object. One is the flavor or the taste of the object. Also, each and every object has its own nature, or we call own angle, own aspect. Or notion. Mind cognizes the object. Who does take the symbol of the object? I would call who take the note of the object. It says that it's like a marking. Perception is like a marking compared to the carpenter's marking on timber. Those days, ancient times, they used the thread, the dyed thread, to mark timber. Where should we cut? When they want to cut into pieces, before cutting, they make some marks with that thread, the dyed thread. Actually, nowadays also the monks are using to cut their robes. So, within first 5 years, monks should know how to sew their robe, how to prepare their robe by themselves. So, they have to cut into the pieces. So before cutting, also we used to make marks with a dyed thread or string. When we put that mark, we know we should cut from this line. Similarly, perception takes the, I would call, notes or take the marks of the object. Suppose if you learn something at the first time, for example, when you learn one language, either English, Thai, Tamil, Burmese, Pali, Sanskrit, or whatever language, first we are learning alphabet. We are trying to get the symbol of that letters. This is the first time we take the notes, we take the marks. When it's familiar with us, so we can recognize it again. This is called A, this is called A, this is called E, like this. Perception is taking also marks, taking notes, as well as it supports to recognize the previous marks as well. There are various types of perceptions, visible and visible objects, sounds, smells, taste, tangible objects, and various types of objects. For example, there are many colors. All the colors are included in visible object. Who will support? Who does support to separate those colors? This is red, this is blue, this is white, this is yellow. Sanya is a mental factor that makes the separation of those objects. Similarly, sounds. There are various types of sounds. Human sounds, animal sounds, various types of. And when we take about the musics, various types of music sounds. Who can separate those sounds? Because everything are included in the group of sound. Perception is a mental factor that can separate from each other. So you can get an idea about perception. Let's move into the next mental factor. Cetana. We call also karma, also volition. This is another mental factor which is difficult to explain. Scholars mention that this should be understood as the mental factor that has the highest strength, the strongest one. It's like in commentary compared to the chief people. Suppose when we are studying in our class, we have our chief people, student, maybe monitor or any other skillful student or one of our friends. Sometimes there are some periods we don't have teachers. Those times, or sometimes they make a fun. This is not a, so I would call generally, when they are studying, they want to study more and more. At that time, the student, though is very clever, take the responsibility for that period. Sometimes he support to others. He explain the questions, and they revise their lessons again and again. We have to understand the Cetana is like a mental factor that organizes or that manage other mental factors systematically with a double power. It is called he has one more strength. He's more effortful. Similarly, Cetana is like a mental factor which has double power. That's why we call this as karma. It's karma gives the results in the future. Also another term, sankhara, in the dependent origination. Sankhara paccaya vijñāna. Wholesome, unwholesome volitions, actions give the rebirth in the next lives. So those are the few terms for Cetana. Suppose when we are doing some action, mind takes an object. For example, when you are playing cricket, this famous in India and Sri Lanka, mind can take the object to ball and to bat. We need some, we need to move our hand, our legs. We have to move our body parts. Volition is the mental factor which plays the main role while performing those actions. Because of this volition, we will learn later, because of this volition, it can produce air, we call Chittagiriya Vayu, the air element produced by the mind. Because of that air element, our body parts can move. We can move our body parts. So volition is the main mental factor which plays the main role when we are doing those actions. Scholar says that, so I have mentioned, mind plays the main role while cognizing objects. Volition plays the main role while performing actions. Therefore, try to understand that this is a nature that has a doubled power, like a main pupil in the class. Next one, Ekaggata. When we were discussing Jhana Chittas, Rupavachara, we already discussed this mental factor, Ekaggata. One-pointedness. Up to now, we have discussed the natures of the objects. There is a flavor, there is a symbol of the object. Similarly, there are various aspects of the object. Suppose when you look at this object, you can see this object from left side, from right side. You can look at this object closely and far away. There are various angles, various aspects of the object. Mind cognizes object. Who takes the aspects of the object or angle of the object? So Chandamana Mahathera mentioned that usually we say the Ekaggata takes the one object. At one time, mind can take only one object. It's obvious for us. So Chandamana Mahathera mentioned that Ekaggata takes the one aspect of the object. There are hundreds, thousands of aspects of the object. Among those aspects, Ekaggata takes one aspect. That's the function of the Ekaggata. When you develop this Ekaggata into a certain level, we call this samadhi or concentration. Also, there is another example given. It's like a water together with a grain flour. You know, when we make chapati, roti, first we have to prepare the flour, flour. First we mix with flour with the water, or sometimes we add some other ingredients. to make it to prepare as a ball, we have to make it a ball. So the powder first is like a powder, no? Then we add some water and we make a ball of the flour. Similarly, the particles can be collected or get together because of the water. After adding the water, we can prepare a ball. It's not a scattered the particles. Similarly, understand the ekaggata is like unifying our mind. When we develop the ekaggata, it supports to concentrate our mind, not to distract, collecting our mind into one object. Also, another example given, it's like a flame in the place where there is no wind. If there is a wind, flame is shaking, always. But it's in the room without wind, no shaking of the flame. Similarly, understand that the nature of the concentration. We know Chitta arises and passes away, arises and passes away. If so, how one-pointedness develop into concentration? Think about the flame. It also arising and passing away because of the oil. Oil also burn. Again, oil comes. Again, the oil burns, moment to moment. Similarly, Chitta arises again and again, but this Chitta takes the same object strongly. Ekaggata is a mental factor. We grab that object strongly. It's like so we have understand like the water can collect the particles, the powder. Similarly, mind can grab firmly with that object. Those who have experience in meditation, so in the beginning, it's very difficult to keep our mind, place our mind in one object. When we practice again and again, our concentration becomes strong. Then we are able to focus on one object for a long time. Maybe in the beginning, 1 minute, after that 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. When we develop our concentration, it's for hours. This is the development of the ekaggata. We call it as concentration. Next one, GBT India. This is also difficult to understand. We know mind arises moment to moment. It arises and passes away momentarily. Dhammasangani commentary give an example like water in the lotus stalk. Water supports to keep the lotus stalk without drying. Similarly, the life faculty supports to keep our mental factors, to maintain our mental factors without becoming to complete end. After death, also, Cetasika arises, Chitta Cetasika arises. It's like a maintenance, maintaining mental factor. You may have a question that if it maintain other mental factors, who does maintain this mental factor, GBT India? We can understand it with the next simile. It's like a boatman. When boatmen carry the passengers to another shore, he also concerned about his protection, as well as at the same time, he concerns on the protection of his passengers. Similarly, Jivitindriya Cetasika, the mental life faculty, should be understood as the boatman, which maintain other mental factors. At the same time, it can maintain itself. So those are the very, very subtle natures. So we have to understand with those similes. Without simile, it's very difficult to understand those mental factors. Next one, Manasikara, attention. We have understood that when the mind takes the object, mind cognizes the object. Mind arises and passes away. Mind takes the object, cognizes the object, and passes away. There is another mental factor, which encourage to take the new object without breaking that flow. That's the function of the Manasikara, attention. Therefore, scholars mention it as channeling or turning the mental states towards the object. When mind arises by cognizing object, then after that passes away. To keep that flow, object should be taken again and again. This mental factor is like a rudder of the ship, which directs to its destination. Similarly, the Manasikara Cetasika, the attention mental factor, it's like a turning the mental flow towards the object. We have to understand like in this way. It's like a channeling towards the objects, not to break up the mental stream. So those are the 7 mental factors, universal: Phassa, Vedana, Sanya, Cetana, Ekaggata, Jivitindriya, Manasikara. So we have to learn 2 sections in this, mainly in this chapter. First, we have to learn how those Cetasikas associate the Chittas. After that, we have to learn how many Cetasikas, how many mental factors arise in certain Chittas. Regarding 7 universal mental factors, no need to worry about the number because they are universal. They are we call Sabba Chitta Sadharana. Sadharana, common. Sabba Chitta means common for all the consciousness. Therefore, these 7 mental factors associate all the chittas, all the consciousness. We don't want to worry about the numbers. We can use either 89 method or 121 method. These 7 mental factors associate all the chittas. But the difficult section is pakinnaka, I call occasionals. If you can master the occasionals, we can say, so you have done 80% of the this second chapter. So today we will discuss about the occasionals as well. Pakinnaka occasional mental factors. So there are 6 occasional mental factors. Vitakka, Vichara, Adhimokha, Viriya, Piti, and Chanda. Vitakka, initial application. Vichara, sustained application. Adhimokha, decision. Viriya, effort. Piti, cess or joy. Chanda, desire. Please recall your memory to the Rupavachara Chittas, immaterial consciousness. We have discussed Vitakka, Vichara, and Piti in detail. What are the differences between Vitakka and Vichara with many similes? And the 5 types of joy, Piti. Today, I don't want to explain those details again and again. So if you need to know about Vitakka, Vichara, and Piti in detail, please go into the lesson we have discussed about Rupavachara Chittas, material and immaterial consciousness. Rupavachara Chittas. So these are the occasional mental factors. Initial application, sustained application, decision, effort, joy, and desire. In Pali, Vitakka, Vichara, Adhimokha, Viriya, Piti, and Chanda. Just we pay attention in brief. Vitakka is a Cetasiaka which directs the mind to the object. It puts the mind onto the objects. I think you can remember those similes, the simile of the bird and sound of the bell. Those are the similes, and also simile of bee. It's like it puts the mind onto the object. Like bee first come onto the flower, lands on the flower. Another term is Sankappa for Vitakka. It's very the common usage in Eight Noble Path, Samma Sankappa. Samma Sankappa is right intention or right thought, and Miccha Sankappa, wrong intention or wrong thought. Just to understand the nature, in simply, Vitakka is a mental factor which directs mind to the object, or it's like a mental factor that puts the mind onto the object. Next one, Vichara, sustained application. Scholars also mention that it's like a rubbing the object, spreading on the object. Vitakka puts the mind on the object, Vichara keeps the mind on the object. It's engaging with the object or examining it. Please recall your memory to the chapter 1, Finding Material Consciousness. We have discussed the differences between Vitakka and Vichara in detail. If you want to learn again, and please go into those the previous lessons. Here, just pay attention for the function, for the nature of these mental factors. Vichara is like examining the object. I will tell about these simile. First, it come to the flower. After that, we find the honey or flavor on the flower, like examining. Understand with that simile the differences of the Vitakka and Vichara. Another one, Adhimokha. We translate it as decision. It's also very subtle mental factor, difficult to understand. According to the commentarial explanation, it depends on the object and make decisions. It compared with a rock pillar, which is very steady and strong. This is a little bit close to also the faith and concentration, but it's different from those mental factors. Try to understand it as when mind takes the object, cognizes object, Adhimokha, make it steady, taking the object, that function. Make it strong. Therefore, Adhimokha does not arise in Vichikicca Sagata Chitta, Uddacha Sagata, in Vichikicca Sagata Chitta. In Vichikicca, there is no steadiness on the object. It's shaking whether it's correct or not. Therefore, Adhimokha does not arise with Vichikicca. Later on, we will discuss the reasons and the numbers of these Cetasikas. Next one, Vira Effect. It's obvious for us. It's the characteristics of its supporting, like exertion, non-collapse. It's obvious for us when we do something. For example, when we are studying or when we practice our meditation, we need much effort. Without effort, we can't success our day-to-day life, even though. Not about about our spiritual life. To complete our action, we need the support of the effort. It says that it's like a giving and support to non-collapse. Suppose there is a old house going to fall down, the walls are going to fall down. At that time, we give some supports. Similarly, Vira is like a mental factor that gives the support for non-collapse. It's not a physical effort we call. We need mental effort to develop also physical effort, but here it's not the physical power or physical strength. We call that effort, the mental effort. Suppose when you are doing meditation, so there may be very healthy person, a very strong one, but in the very beginning, they are not able to concentrate their mind. Sometimes they are not able to sit for 30 minutes at least in one sitting. Why? What is the reason? Their mental effort is not enough to concentrate on one object. Their mental effort is not enough to sit for 30 minutes in one place. Therefore, this is not the physical effort. We should understand that this is the nature of the mental effort, mental strength. This is very useful in our spiritual life. It's not like GBT India and Adhimokka which are difficult to understand. Virya can be understood easily. Also, we have to develop Virya to attain our spiritual developments. Next one, Piti. Its function is refresh our mind and body. And it's also endearing associal mental states. It's like elating and make our mind happy. I don't go to the 5 types of the joy. We have discussed 5 types of joy in previous lessons. Therefore, please, if you want to learn them again, please listen the previous lessons. It's like refreshing our mind. And because of refreshing, also our body become refreshed. When piti arises, it pervades in our body. We can understand, we can experience it. It endear our mind. It make our mind happy. This is the nature of the piti. We also discussed the differences between the vedana, the pleasurable feeling, and the piti, with similes in previous lessons. The next one, Chanda, desire. The characteristics of Chanda is to perform the action, the searching for an object. Also, conation, translated conation. We have to understand it as not a desire, not a lust. This is not an attachment. This is a desire to complete the action, just the will to do. So we have to differentiate the Kama Chanda and Chanda here. This is not a sensual desire. This is just to desire to perform that action, to complete that action. So we have to understand at just mere desire to complete action without attachment. If there is lobha arises, it follows with lobha. When wholesome natures arises, it follows with wholesome natures. When we take this separately, the Chanda Cetasika, we have to understand as just desire, the mere desire to perform that action. That action means taking the object, cognizing the object. What are the Cetasikas? Pakinnaka, occasionals, Vitakka, Vichara, Adhimokha, Viriya, Piti, and Chanda. Initial application, sustained application, decision, effort, joy, and desire. Now we are going to enumerate. We are going to find out the Chittas in which arise with these Cetasikas. First, see the dissociate section, dissociate row. Vitakka, Vitakka do not associate Dipancha Vijnana. What are Dipancha Vijnana? Dipancha Vijnana means 2 Chakku Vijnana, 2 Sota Vijnana, 2 Gahana Vijnana, 2 Jivha Vijnana, 2 Kaya Vijnana. 2 eye consciousness, 2 ear consciousness, 2 nose consciousness, 2 tongue consciousness, 2 body consciousness. Those 10 Chittas are called as Dipancha Vijnana. Therefore, please try to be familiar with this term. Later on, we will use this term. Dipancha Vijnana is for the 2 Chakku Vijnana, 2 Sota Vijnana, 2 Ghana Vijnana, 2 Jivha Vijnana, 2 Kaya Vijnana. Vitakka do not associate those 10 Chittas. And I think you can remember the names of the Jhana Chittas. What is the name of first Jhana Chitta? Vitakka, Vichara, Piti, Sukha, Ekaggata, Sahita, Patama Jhana Chitta. So we can find Vitakka in first Jhana. Therefore, you can see first Jhana in the next row. In second Jhana, can we find Vitakka? We cannot. Vichara, Piti, Sukha, Ekaggata, Sahita, Dutiya Jhana. So therefore, Vitakka do not associate second Jhana Chittas. Here I mentioned 11. What are they? 8 Lokuttara and 3 Rupavachara. We have discussed in these classifications in previous lesson last week. Next one. Third Jhana Chittas 11. Fourth Jhana Chittas 11. Fifth Jhana Chittas 23. How many altogether? Vitakka do not arise with those 66 Chittas. How many Chittas that associate Vitakka? There are 55 Chittas. Here Kamavachara 54. Why? What is the reason of 54? How many Kamavachara Chittas altogether? There are 54 Kamavachara Chittas altogether. Among those 54, we have to reduce these 10 Dipancha Vijnana. Remaining are 44 Kamavachara Chittas. Then, first Jhana Chitta, how many? 11. 3 Rupavachara and 8 Lokuttara. Altogether, Vitakka associates those 55 Chittas. When you know Vitakka, so we have to do nothing for Vichara, because you have to add only second jhana Chittas 11. Vichara arises with those 44 Kamavachara Chittas, except the Panchaviññāna, plus jhana Chittas 11, second jhana Chittas 11, altogether 66 Chittas. Now let's pay attention for the dissociation. Vichara do not associate. Then the Panchaviññāna, third jhana 11, fourth jhana 11, and fifth jhana 23, altogether 55. Vichara do not arise. Vichara does not arise with those 55 Chittas. Next one, Adhimokha. Adhimokha do not arise with the Panchaviññāna 10 and Vichikicca Sahagata Chitta, altogether 11. Adhimokha does not arise with those 11 Chittas. How many Chittas that associate Adhimokha? 11 Akusala. Why 11? So we have to reduce Vichikicca here. 11 Akusala Chittas. Ahetuka 8. Why 8 Ahetuka? Because we have to reduce 10 the Panchaviññāna. 11 Akusala. Ahetuka 8. Kama. Sobhana. Kama Sobhana 24. Mahakusala, Mahavipaka, Mahakiriya, Mahagata 27, Rupavachara and Arupavachara, Lokuttara 8, altogether 78. Now you are familiar with the names, therefore I use those Pali terms. So Adhimokha arises with those 78 Chittas, and Adhimokha does not associate those 11 Chittas. They are the Panchaviññāna and Vichikicca. Next one, Virya. Let's pay attention for the right side. Just think about 18 Ahetuka Chittas. Among 18 Ahetuka Chittas, there are 7 Akusala Vipaka, 8 Kusala Vipaka, Ahetuka Kusala Vipaka, and 3 Kiriya. Among these 18, please pay attention for the first 16. First 16, 7 Akusala Vipaka, 8 Ahetuka Kusala Vipaka, and next one, Panchadvara Vajjana. Virya does not arise with those 16 Chittas. What are the Chittas which associate Virya? 12 Akusala. How many remaining in Ahetuka? Ahetuka, there are 2 remaining. Manodvara Vajjana 1 and Hasituppada. Then Kamasobhana 24, Mahagata 27, Lokuttara 8. Altogether 73. Virya associate those 73 Chittas. 12 Akusala, Manodvara Vajjana, Hasituppada, Kamasobhana 24, Mahagata 27, Lokuttara 8, altogether 73. Next one, Piti. This is a little bit difficult. So you have to memorize the table given for the classification of feeling. Can you remember? Sukha, Dukkha, Somanassa, Domanassa, Upekha. When you count the Chittas that associate piti, you have to think about the feeling. How many Somanassa in Kamavachara? There are 18. First jhana chitta, also with Somanassa, Sukha Vedana, 11. Second jhana, 11. Third jhana, 11. Altogether, 51. Piti arises with these 51 chittas. 18 Kama Somanassa, first jhana 11, second jhana 11, third jhana 11, altogether 51. Piti does not arise with 70 chittas. What are them? 2 dosamula chittas. Why? They are domanassa. Because piti arises with somanassa, not with domanassa. And 2 kaya viññāna, dukkha vedana and sukha vedana. The reason is sukha vedana is very, very weak chitta. Therefore, piti do not arise. Nothing to say about upekha. Because piti does not arise with upekha sahagata chittas, with a neutral feeling. How many upekha sahagata chittas? There are 55 upekha sahagata chittas. Please see the last lesson. If you can't classify those 55, then 4th jhana chittas. So when the meditator comes into 4th jhana, he has overcome the piti. Therefore, piti does not arise in 4th jhana chittas, overcome by the meditation practice. Therefore, piti does not arise with those 70 chittas. 2 domanassa, 2 kaya viññāna, upekha 55, 4th jhana 11, altogether 70. Last one, akusala. Last one, chanda, the desire. Please see the right side. Chanda do not arise with 2 mohamula chittas and 18 ahetuka chittas, altogether 20. I'll repeat again. Chanda do not arise with 2 mohamula chittas and 18 ahetuka chittas, altogether 20. If so, chanda arise with 69 chittas. What are them? 10 akusala. Why 10? So we have to exclude 2 mohamula. 10 akusala, 8 lobha mula and 2 dosa mula, kamasobhana 24, mahagata 27, lokuttara 8, altogether 69. Chanda arises with those 69 chittas. What are them? 10 akusala, kamasobhana 24, mahagata 27, lokuttara 8, altogether 69. So you have to memorize this chart. Without memorization, we can't proceed our lessons. It's not difficult. So these are 6, no? If you try to memorize one within 1 day, within 1 week, you can memorize. It's not a difficult thing. There will be some exercises given based on these Cetasikas, mental factors. So today we have started chapter 2, mental factors. In this lesson, we have discussed the common characteristics of the mental factors and the groups. What are the 3 groups? There are Aññasamānā, akusala and kusala. Aññasamānā is 2-fold. Sabbacita sadharana, universals, and pakinnaka, occasionals, Today we have discussed those 13 Cetasikas, Sabbacita Sadharana, Passa, Vedana, Sanya, Cetana, Ekaggata, GBT India, Manasikara, the 7 Cetasikas. Then 6 occasionals, Vitakka, Vichara, Adhimukha, Vira, Piti, Chanda. Then we try to find the association and dissociation of those Cetasikas regarding 89 method and 121 method. I want to mention one more thing. When you find the jhana factors, please go with 121 method. For remaining Cetasikas, you can count with 89 method. From next month, there will be 2 classes per month. Second week and fourth week. Not in every week. This for remind. If you have any question, now it's time to ask. I can give you 5 or 10 minutes. If so, let's share our merits and conclude our class by reciting Buddhasasanam Chirantittatu 3 times. Akasattha ca bhummattha devānāga mahiddhika puññantaṃ anumoditvā ciran rakkhantu sāsanam. Akasattha ca bhummattha devānāga mahiddhika puññantaṃ anumoditvā ciran rakkhantu desanam. Akasattha ca bhummattha devānāga mahiddhika puññantaṃ anumoditvā ciran rakkhantu maṃ paraṃ. Buddha Sasanam Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanam Chirantittatu, Buddha Sasanam Chirantittatu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.